Okay, so last week, I hope you remember that we talked about convergent design or convergent ideas or convergent thinking. And this week, we're going to be talking about divergent design or ideas or thinking. And this is really important. This is how you go from the kind of the old school mobile phone, so the kind of the Nokia style that was like this, and it had lots of buttons on it, and you suddenly end up with a mobile phone that looks like this. And what happened is I'm old enough to remember the kind of the mobile phones or before the iPhone, and they were all kind of this sort of size and shape. Some of them were clamshell, but generally they were all a single piece like this. They had a small screen on them. They had lots of buttons, and there was a time where really the convergent design approach for these phones was to just take the same phone and just keep making it smaller. And it got smaller and smaller and smaller until actually it was so small that unless you had teeny tiny hands, it was impossible to use. And so that was the convergent design approach. But what happened is someone said, what would it be like if we changed our design approach? And they asked a really important thing. They asked a what if question. What if... apologies for that. I was halfway through and then my children knocked on the front door. I had to let them in. So we're back to this question, what if, which I think is really ever so important. We can ask this question, what if I made a phone which didn't have any buttons, and what if actually the whole front of that phone was a screen? That's a big question to ask. And what that's done is it's created a whole new style of phone. So the old phones, very few people have phones like that anymore, because actually we've moved into a new way, and now we're converging that way. But there's this moment when we jump from one to the other, which is where we think differently. We diverge. We move away from the kind of the normal, and we look for a new solution to a problem. And that is a really important thing, because actually iteration alone doesn't necessarily get us to the big solutions, the big answers to the questions. So a question we might be asking ourselves right now is, how can I design a building which is net zero carbon? And actually our convergent iterations of existing buildings is not going to get us to a net zero carbon building. We need to think differently, we need to think divergently, and we need to come at this in a very different way. And so I'm just going to pause there and let you think about the difference between convergent and divergent design thinking. And then I'm going to talk to you about a design theory.